Alright, so with us just getting the first half of chapter 314, and since there's a break this week, I thought that it would be a good idea to just gather all my thoughts and try to somewhat predict what will happen in part 2 of chapter 314, and whether it will be a goal or not, which is the heated discussion currently. Anyway, I have 4 different predictions of what will happen, so let's waste no more time and get into the first one. And you know what? Let's take Isagi scoring first. So in the first half, we saw Chigiri breaking free from all the defenders, and then making a flawless cross to Isagi, who was in the box. So normally you would think that this is his goal for sure. However, in the bottom we see a white shoe, meaning that it's a Nigerian player who comes by and says, nope. Now from this panel we can see that Oboabona is occupied with Hiyori, and Kuso is handling Rin, which only leaves 2 players left, which is Bello and Onatsi. Now if we are honest, none of them should really be here, as firstly Bello is an attacking midfielder, and Onatsi is obviously a forward. However, we have seen that Onatsi can just be anywhere on the pitch, so thinking like that doesn't apply to him. Anyway, I don't think that it will be Bello who comes by, even though he's been kind of a ghost since he hikey smoked Bachira, which just leaves Onatsi. And I believe him being here right by Isagi is the most likely option, but that just leaves one question, which is of course what will happen between them. Well, it kind of depends. Isagi said that the ball was his. However, the character who I believe to be Onatsi said, nope. So if Onatsi reaches the ball first, then it will be a bit tricky for Blue Lock's hero. However, a ton of you have pointed out that Isagi could use his 2-gun volley, and at first, I wasn't really sure about it, but since it's been a while, I've been able to think about it more and more, and actually that would be kind of sick. If Isagi gets the ball, and we see Onatsi thinking that he has got Isagi exactly where he wants him just to be hit with a 2-gun volley, would be pretty satisfying, not to mention scoring a goal this early into the game will set the tone for the rest of the match. And I've seen loads of comments talking about how they have lost interest after the Neo-Egoist League. However, if Isagi were to score here, then I believe that some of that excitement from the Neo-Egoist League might be able to come back and reignite the story. There's also more things I believe supports this. As we know, we only got the half of the chapter, and in basically all of the important goals in the series we have seen them being the last panel out of the chapter. So if let's say it is Onatsi who comes by and creates a bit of trouble, then Isagi very well might struggle for some panels before he pulls out the 2-gun volley and ultimately scores the goal in the last few panels. Personally, I think that it would be a very cool first goal, and not to mention that we might get to see some more out of Isagi since he had his training and all, so he might make a move we have never seen before, not for the finish move, as I believe that in this position he would score with the 2-gun volley. However, I just meant something else. Also, to just add on to all of this, we see him being completely locked in, and also having his meta-vision eyes out, which could just very well mean that he is letting Onatsi think that he will get the ball, but while the whole time he is just playing into Isagi's hand, he might want to give him some false hope before he just shuts him down completely. Now that would be pure cinema if I have ever seen it. But I will be honest, as when this chapter dropped, I was super skeptical too if Isagi would score or not. However, when I really look at it, I feel like this is a clear goal. Watch me say this, and when part 2 drops, it will just get blocked, and I'll end up crying. But with that said, let's actually take a look at another potential thing, which could happen, which is if Onatsi will really get off the block. Let's say that Onatsi is somehow here, and actually manages to see further than Isagi is able to, and by doing so, he is able to take the ball off him. Well, to first say my personal opinion, then I would be a bit annoyed, as that would be like his 3rd time getting to show off in the span of 2 chapters. And yeah, I know that his whole thing is being like the main man, but come on, give the others some moments as well anyway. With my opinion out of the way, let's go over what could actually happen. Well, even if Onatsi takes the ball, then I believe that we will be pretty chill. Kuso is all the way back at the defensive line, and yes, he is insanely fast, so he could without a doubt adapt to the counterattack, but he already has Rin by him, and not to mention Chigiri not far from him either, so I don't think he will be that vital even if they got a counterattack. Now they could make it interesting by utilizing Bello, and saying that he has been waiting by the Blue Lock's defense the whole time, and Onatsi sends him a killer cross right away, and Bello tries to style on as many Blue Lock players as he could before giving it back to Onatsi, who might get off a shot, and honestly that could very well happen, as we see basically the whole midfield from Blue Lock being involved in this attack. So if Onatsi manages to get the ball from Isagi here, then it could mean some real trouble. However, with that said, we also don't know how truly good Onatsi actually is. Now yes, he has shown some insane feats already. However, he isn't on the new Generation 11 scale, as he obviously isn't one of them. Now the new Generation 11 system is still a bit iffy, as we aren't 100% sure on what makes one qualified for that title. However, we can only go of that. He isn't one, and with that said, I have a hard time seeing that he will be able to score even if he takes the ball here, with the help of himself and Bello, going up against basically the whole defense line from Blue Lock, with the exception of Chigiri and Hiyori, as I believe that he will cover Kuso alongside Rin. Also, this will tie into the title of chapter 315, which comes after part 2, and it's called Robbery Arc. Now honestly, my first thought was Aiku, as his whole thing back in the U20 match was surrounding cops and thieves and all of that. So let's say that Onatsi takes the ball and starts his counter, then with the title of the next chapter. I have a hard time seeing that Aiku won't be there to stop it. Now we obviously can't read too much into the title, as it's still very vague, but that's my guess. So honestly, I don't think that even if Isagi loses the ball, I still don't think that this will be a goal opportunity for Nigeria. Alright, now let's go over another prediction, which would involve an assist. Now this is where it gets a bit tricky, as we know that all of the Blue Lockers wants to succeed as far as they can in this U20 World Cup, but I still have a bit of a hard time seeing Isagi passing in this spot. And if Onatsi appears, then I believe that he would rather try and somehow get by him, but let's say that he were to realize that if he doesn't pass, then Onatsi will undoubtedly get the ball and decides to, against his beliefs, actually pass the ball. Well, then he has a bunch of options. Firstly, I know that Kuso is trying to cut off Rin currently. However, I fully think that if Isagi sends a pass to Rin, then he will be able to get out of Kuso's grip and get past him, because I'm not sure what you guys believe, but I believe Rin to be levels above Kuso, so I very well could see that happening. Not to mention that we also have Ryo in the box a bit to his right. Now he has a defender by him, but let's be honest, we have no idea to what that defender's name is, so we can easily assume that it's just a random who won't do anything against the chameleon of Blue Lock Ryo. Now the last option is a bit more interesting, but obviously very far-fetched. But that's if it isn't someone from the Nigerian team who gets to the ball first, but if it's someone from the Blue Lock team. Kind of like what Baru did in the U20 match where Isagi passed to Rin, but that's when Baru came in between it and scored his own goal. The fall with this is that he doesn't have either Shidu or Baru on the field, who I believe would be the most likely to do something like that. Obviously Rin is also a candidate, but he is a bit too far away. I would also say that Bachira could be a shout, and that he will just jump and take the ball, and then pull out his Ginga monster style. And he has been a ghost since he got done over by Bello. So if he were to just pull out here and steal the ball, then I wouldn't be mad. We already see that Ryo is up here on the field, which means that Bachira could very likely be here as well, and giving Bachira the first goal is something I would be all here for. However, I still believe that it's a long shot. However, it would make sense with the upcoming title of chapter 315, which was called Robbery Arc, as it would kind of be like, Isagi got robbed out of his goal, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, this has been my predictions to what will happen in the next part of the story, and some of these might be very far-fetched. However, I had fun making this video. Now with that said, please give me your predictions to what will happen in the next chapter, whether you think they will score or not, and it doesn't matter how outrageous or wild your predictions are, but just be sure to leave them down below. Anyway, if you like Blue Lock and videos like this, then I would highly suggest you subscribe to this channel, and while you are at it, leave a comment and a like, as it helps out with the algorithm a ton. And if you are curious to see another video of mine, then please watch the video that will be popping up on the screen now. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.